Shit, alright, right now?
Testicle.
Throw the shit all over the goddamn remote.
Shut the fuck up. Alright, I'm actually gonna move these. I think they're in the camera frame. And it looks like shit.
Yeah, because we really pride ourselves on our clean and pristine set. This table right here, this little nightstand, was next to my bed for 10 years.
Probably so much jizz on it.
Yeah, so all that is.
Ah, shit.
No, that's all retainer schmoo. I would just put my retainer on there, and I would just let it soak into the wood.
Nice.
Yeah. Holy shit, 80.
I know, what the fuck? I can't wait till we hit 100. We do have to do something, so we should start planning now.
I was thinking.
For what we're gonna do.
I was thinking, right? We stand kind of like in the middle, and we face each other, and then we both reach down and give each other a hand job. At the same time, be like,
and then just as you're about to finish, just as it's about to happen, Alex comes sliding in with his mouth agape, ready to just take it, steaming, hot in the face.
It's like to the brim too. It's like it's like gargling it and shit.
Oh no! But no, we do have to do something. We do have to start planning and do something. I think. It'd be,
yeah, it probably won't be gay.
All right, I'm ready when you are. I'm not ready when you are. Hang on.
It's like if you ever grab like a goose by the head and you kind of do that to his neck.
I can't say I have any experience with it, but I do understand the metaphor.
I don't understand why people like let geese attack them. I'd smack the fuck out of a goose.
Just fucking grab it right by the base of the neck, then the bottom, and just fucking wiggle the shit out of it.
It talks mad shit for something with such a ringable neck.
Dude, literally like pumping a shotgun. Just
no joke. You just like, and it's like a towel, just and it's dead.
Fucking right over your knee. Yeah.
Honestly.
Like you're wringing out your cock.
Those things talk mad shit for something with hollow bones.
Yeah.
You know who doesn't have hollow bones?
Me.
You
stand up.
I've been drinking my milk. I've been getting my bone strength. You know what I'm saying?
I got boner.
Nice.
Sick, dude.
Oh yeah, let's cut down on pre-show banter.
I know.
I know. Continue to banter for 5 minutes.
I know.
Hello and welcome to the 80th installment of the Synapse Misfire Podcast. I'm your host, Chris, joined by our co-host, Jordan.
That's me.
That's him.
That's me. If
That's
you can
him.
see me. If you can see me.
That's him.
That's me.
That's him.
That's me.
So, Jordan.
Yeah.
We're back together.
We're back together. Listen.
We are back in a new loving relationship.
I'm in a very good mood right now. Chris can probably tell because we had a lot of pre-show banter.
I am in a fucking excellent mood today.
I'm in an excellent mood as well.
I am beaming with confidence today.
Because I will be honest with you, the last 2 episodes that we made remote because of that snowstorm were probably the least enjoyable I've ever had editing that podcast.
Honestly, I don't know if you could tell. It was probably pretty easy to tell. I was like really annoyed during both of those for no real good reason.
Yeah.
I was just really angry. Yeah. For no reason, genuinely.
Yeah, I am happy to be back, baby. I'm glad that we're together.
You ever have one of them days where you're just pissed off for
and
like
then every little
no
thing
reason?
cascades and
Yeah. But I'm in a really good mood.
I am
today.
As well. We made plans. We had a plan. We fell a little behind on timing due to some conversations.
Well, yeah, that was my dad's fault.
It was definitely your dad's fault.
That was my dad's fault.
But it's okay.
And it was my nephew taking all my damn Pokemon cards.
But it's okay.
Yeah, my dad came by and my nephew was here, and my nephew, he asked me if I had my Pokemon cards still, and I had to pull them down from the attic, and I gave it to him. Probably like over 1,000 of them.
When he asked for those cards, I was like, oh, here we go on another 40-minute voyage. And
then
Chris
they were just right at the top of the stairs.
Just there.
Because I remember specifically what vessel they were in. They were in a big bag, a big like plastic shopping bag.
Yeah.
And I grabbed it.
But yeah, I'm happy to be back. I'm in a good mood. So if you're in a good mood too, you should subscribe and follow the podcast. You can do so natively on youtube.com, where we have a video platform, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Breaker, Radio Public, Spotify, my app of choice, Pocket Cast, and of course the handy dandy RSS feed. Put that shit in whatever goddamn app you want and take a listen. Hang out with the boys.
Yeah, just hang out with us.
And
have
as
a
always,
good time.
As always, though, if you want to ask the boys a question or shoot us some comments, question, concerns, or death threats, you can do so in the YouTube comments section or via email, synapsemisfire@pm.me. It's linked below. Send us whatever the hell you want. We'll read it on the show unless you explicitly request us not to.
Or you say some,
Yeah.
like, really out-of-pocket shit.
We did have one really out-of-pocket message that we just didn't acknowledge, yeah.
If you're just like, hey... If you just say, hey, and then just send the N-word, we probably won't read it. Probably
won't read it, but we probably will call you out, to be honest.
We'll probably call you, be like, we'll read your email address, we'll, like, find your location.
Yeah.
And we'll find your address, and we'll read out we'll show pictures of your house.
It's like that thing with Tim Cook on my
We'll
windowsill.
show
That's going to be us.
pictures of, like, you getting into your car to go to work and stuff.
Your wedding photos, like, not a photo of your wedding photos, the photo that's on your nightstand.
It's like the actual one.
Yeah.
And then also
Then
other
photos
of us taking photos down at your wedding.
And then and then also photos of your significant other tied up in the back of Chris's Fiesta.
Yeah. What happens afterwards, we're not going to take pictures of.
Oh, shit, that went off the rails. So, Chris, we haven't really talked too much because you work like 3 days a week.
I work like fucking 16 minutes every week.
Yeah, and the one day that you are there all day, I work from home. So, Chris, what the hell's been going on? What was going on?
Oh, I've had a rough couple weeks, man. I'm not going to lie to you.
I heard there was a slight incident.
A slight incident.
Just a slight incident.
Oh,
couple
fuck.
of incidents. A handful. A dabble of incidents. So, Chris, let us know. What happened?
Jesus Christ, dude. So,
Brace yourselves.
This is the first one. Okay, the first one.
Go in order. Sequential order.
The weekend that we did the podcast last.
Yep.
A lot of snow. That was Saturday. All the snow came. Stopped Sunday.
24 inches, by the way.
It was so much fucking snow.
I'll throw up the photos because I still have them on my desktop.
So snow was gone Sunday. I mean, it was there, but like it had stopped snowing.
It's no longer falling.
So it was all, all the main roads were all cleaned up and stuff. And because it's New England, snow isn't uncommon. We get it a lot.
Yeah. For a little context, by the way, because I know where this story is going. Chris lives in a nice little humble town, and I live in a city.
Yeah. So, but here's the thing.
And work in the city.
I live right on a main road that's adjacent to a main road. Like it's not like a highway, but it's basically a highway. So that Monday, so I figured, Sunday they were finishing up cleanup, great. I didn't really go anywhere. Monday, I figured, shit, it's like, it's over and done with by now.
Yeah.
Get in the Fiesta to go to work Monday morning. 6:30, something. I get out, I'm in the Fiesta. I driving. Just chilling, having a good time. Listening to music. Driving down the highway, just fine. No slippage, there's no ice on the road, really. Right now, I get off the highway, and I get to the road like I need to be on to get to work, which is like a pretty well-traveled road, not just for like cars and employees, but for like semi-trucks, because it's an industrial park.
It's an industrial park. It's factory after factory after factory.
Yeah, so it's like there's a lot of employees down there, and it's a lot of semi-trucks, like a lot. So I figured it's got to be clean. It's got to be clean. Because, it's the semi-trucks. If they have an incident and they slide into someone's going to get killed.
Yeah.
So I was like, it's got to be clean. So I get off the highway, and I went, oh, it's not even slightly clean. There was like probably a quarter or half inch of just ice.
Yeah.
Covering the entire road.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, fuck. And I got summer tires. Bald summer tires. So I'm like, well, fuck me. I probably should have taken the old Hummer. Had the 4-wheel drive and the nicer
knobby tires.
Yeah.
As Jordan would call them, knobby Jeep tires.
The fucking
Throwback.
knobbies.
Throwback.
So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to take it slow. Things are going pretty well. There's a little slippage happening, but it's not that big of a deal. There's a point where I have to stop and turn onto a different road. So I am coming to I'm slowing down. Not as well as I'd wanted to. I start to turn. And then I kind of like panicked a little bit. I'm not even going to lie. I kind of panicked a little bit. And I went, oh, fuck. And my front driver's side wheel got stuck completely in a snowbank. And this is Monday morning.
6:30 in the morning. 6:40.
Well, as I was probably getting there, so it's probably like 6:55 or something. And it's Monday morning on like a main road. I was out of traffic, thankfully, because my car is short enough. I just was like in this snowbank. Couldn't get out. I had some strangers try to help me push the car out while I rocked it back and forth.
Yeah, give her a wiggle.
Nothing was happening. The car was freaking out because it didn't know what the hell to do.
Slipping the whole time.
It was trying to do like traction control, but it couldn't get traction anywhere. So
yeah.
So I just heard I was hearing like doo 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 doo, the fucking Ford noise.
Yeah.
So I'm stuck in this snowbank. First phone call I make, always my dad said, "Hey Dad, I'm stuck in a snowbank." He's like, "You're hurt?" No. I'm just, my car's stuck. I hit this snowbank at like 5 miles an hour.
I can picture your dad being like, "Oh shit, are you hurt?" And you're like, "Nah, I'm good." And he's like, "All right, cool."
No, legitimately, he's like, "Oh, well, you got AAA." I was like, "Yeah. I'm gonna call and see if I can get a tow, like get myself pulled out of here." And he's like, "Yeah, great." And then, 20 minutes later, I had already called AAA. I was already waiting on my truck, and knock on my window. I was just on my phone. I had the ignition still going. The heat was on because it was like 20 degrees or less.
Yeah, it was a little less, I think, with wind chill.
And I get a knock on my window. I look over. It's my dad. He showed up. He's like, "Hey." Like, "Yeah, what's up?" "I just see if I can come get you out." "No, not really." And he said, "Oh, I got the I had the tow strap." It's like, "Oh shit," but I didn't bring it.
That's a Chris's dad moment.
"Oh, you didn't bring it."
Oh, that's great.
But whatever, it is what it is. So
You're like, "Thanks, where is it?" He's like, "At home."
I was like, "Well, fuck." But he's there now, so he's waiting with me. And I told him like there's kind of an ETA on the truck, but also not really, because I wasn't in an emergency situation, so the truck's gonna take like an hour and a half.
And also the first real snowfall of the year, everyone drives like they're stupid as fuck. So everyone and their mother's stuck.
Well, yeah. So then I don't drive like I'm stupid as fuck and end up doing something stupid as fuck. So
Yeah.
So I'm waiting on this truck, and then my dad, after like another half hour, my dad goes, "Hey," because I had already talked to my boss. I already told him. I texted him. I said, "Hey, I am currently stuck in a snowbank, so I'm probably gonna be late." And I was already late at this point when I texted him. So I was already 20 minutes late. I said, "Hey, I'm probably not gonna be in for a while. I'm currently stuck in a snowbank." And he called me and we had a chat about it. And he was just like, "Yeah, man, that sucks."
Yeah.
So we're waiting, and my dad and I were waiting, and then he hops out again and says, "Hey, do you just want me to wait?" I'm like, "Oh shit, I guess." So we swapped cars, and I went to work.
Could you imagine if you got the Hummer stuck?
I'd kill myself.
Like 30 feet down the road, he gets the Hummer stuck.
I would just grab all the napkins that are in the glove box, just put them in the gas tank and light them on fire. I'd kill myself.
Man, in a Molotov cartel.
Because that's all we got, man. After that,
Yeah.
right? Because the pickup, that's not gonna do anything. That's 2-wheel drive. Shit.
Yeah.
He was trying to drive it in the snow to move it, like on the driveway that had been salted and already kind of cleaned. And that shit was just...
I did that in the dirt when we were fucking loading it, clearing out the room. You drove on the dirt and it was like, I'm like, what the fuck? Like,
well, it's empty bed,
tires too.
Empty bed, old tires.
Yeah.
So, that happened. We swapped out vehicles. Tow truck, this was like 8:30, I think, when we actually swapped vehicles. Already like an hour and a half late. Tow truck did not show up till like 10:30.
Wow.
So my dad was just chilling in my car. So he's just sitting there. I get to work finally. I complain about what happened all day.
Yeah.
Jordan dropped by and he was saying like, "Oh, those roads are fucking crazy,
dude,
right?" And I spent 20 minutes yelling about this.
I
was
made a mistake.
Furious.
I didn't know. So our boss knew. Our boss told fucking everybody.
Except you.
Except for me.
Well, yeah, because one of our other coworkers, he said, "Oh, he's gonna be here today. He might drive right past you, and I'm coming in a little bit. We might all be able to help." And I said, "No, people have already tried to push me out. I don't think it's gonna happen."
Right.
But so other people knew and you didn't.
And I didn't know. So I walk in and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, the roads are crazy. I had 0 issues getting in. There was a truck stuck.
And you have new tires too.
Brand new tires, front wheel drive.
I had drag slicks.
I had no issues getting in. So I came in to make a joke to Chris because we had just done the podcast remote. It was the following Monday. So I went, yeah, Chris. I literally walked in and said, hey, what's up, Chris? And he looked at me and I went, I don't know if you noticed, there's like a little bit of snow on the ground. And again, there was 24 inches of snow.
And I was already...
And he fucking exploded on me. And
I was already really sour.
He was
already
pissed.
I was sitting there and I was like, I could barely focus on the work I was doing all day because I was so fucking furious. I got home and I was furious. And this was like 6 hours later.
You looked at me, Chris, and you probably don't even remember this. You looked at me, you put your hands on your head, that thing you do when you're mad, and you went, yeah, I fucking know. I know there's fucking snow. And I was like, what the fuck did I say? And then you were like, I got stuck at 6:40 in the morning. And I was like,
I was so mad.
I was like, oh.
The amount of times I used the word inexcusable that day was insane.
It was an inexcusable amount of times, dude.
It's because, because there's no excuse for it. I could see if we were in, like, if we lived in, like, Florida and we got 24 inches of snow, yeah, I can imagine there would be pandemonium.
Well, look what happened in Texas with all that snow
they get snow, like, once a century.
Yeah.
But we get snow, like, we'll get a snowstorm like this once or twice a year.
Yeah.
Right? And then we get snow all throughout.
Yeah, and then maybe there's an off year, but we still get a little bit of, snow
like, this
here
year's
and
been
there.
pretty light with snow, and then they just dumped on us.
Yeah. That was funny, though.
It's 60 degrees today. There's still snow on the ground.
Yeah.
It's little pockets. Yeah. It's not a ton, but there's still some.
Yeah. So
anyway, that's beside my point.
That's not the end of the
Fiesta. Got stuck, got unstuck.
Good to go.
That day, got home, called up the tire store, and I said, hey, let me get some new tires. I need new all seasons. And I had a specific set that I wanted to recommend, or that I wanted to get, Continental DWSs. I went assigned a size up on, like, the sidewall. The standard sidewall for the Fiesta ST is at 40. And I looked it up and made sure it was fine. The 45 works fine. Yeah. There's no rubbing, so that's what I ordered. And they said, all right, we could probably have those Wednesday. We'll call you back. Like, great. Everything's going good. I made the call the next day to a dealership to get my brake and rotor issues straightened out. I said, hey, I called the Ford dealership. I said, hey, I just need pads and rotors for my Fiesta ST. They said, all right, great. We'll have them tomorrow. I gave them my VIN number, everything. I'll have them tomorrow. I paid for them. I show up. I get my brakes and rotors, and I'm waiting on my call back from the tire store, and I'm just chilling. Wednesday rolls around. I don't hear anything. I'm like, okay, well, it is what it is. Thursday, I go to school. I'm going to school. And I'm on my way back. Mind you, Thursday, I was chilling. I had a test in my class, and I got out like an hour early.
Nice.
No, it wasn't an hour early. I forgot my classes are only an hour 15 now. They used to be like 2.5 hours or some shit. I got out like 30 minutes early then. So I was like, all right, great. I'm headed home, bro. I'm having a great time today. The weekend's coming up. I'm working tomorrow with all the homies. It's a good time.
Yeah. Get
home, this noise that I had originally associated with my brakes starts getting a lot louder. Yeah. Like deafening.
Like reverberating through the whole car.
Like, and it wasn't,
steering wheel, right?
and then it wasn't happening while I was braking, because it had been happening while I was just braking. Mm-hmm. And then now just like I was on the highway and it started happening constantly, and it was getting louder. Like, oh, that's not good. And my steering wheel kind of was like doing one of these.
Yep.
I was going back and forth for audio listeners. And I was like, oh, that's really not good. So I'm a couple exits up from my house. So I'm like, you know what? I can just take this exit and I'll go down the slow roads home. And I don't really feel comfortable driving on the highway right now. I just want this to get me home. So I go into the right lane because I was in the left lane. So I move over. And I'm about a half mile from the exit. I see it in the distance. And I'm still going. The shaking and the wheels getting a lot worse. And then I hear an extremely loud noise. I was like, well, fuck. I put on my hazards and I go to pull down in the breakdown lane. My front brakes aren't doing a whole lot. So I stop with my e-brake. I get out and I went like, oh great, I probably blew a tire. So I get out and I sneak around the car, open up my hatch, grab the tire, grab the jack, and I'm dicking around with it. I set it all down on the side of the car because it was on the passenger side where this noise came from. And I was fucking with the jack to get it low enough to get it into my car. And I bent down and went, huh, that's not right. And 3 of the 4 studs, the lug studs on the hub, had sheared right off. There was 1 that was left, no lug nut on it. My wheel was off that 1 stud that was remaining, and my entire car was resting on the center of my tire.
Yep.
So had I reacted in like a different way, I would have, fell down onto the brake disc. I would have flipped the fucking car.
Yeah.
I would have probably had to go to.
If you didn't try to pull over, you probably
would have had to go to the hospital or something.
And car would have been totaled.
Yeah. So I'm glad it went well, but I was still upset. I was like, bet you that was my brake noise. It wasn't a brake noise. It was that the whole time. And I was racking my brain to see if I had ever taken that wheel off, and to my knowledge, I haven't. So that just must have been, they were doing something with it and they like put it back on and maybe they didn't torque it as much as they should have. I'm not really trying to pass blame onto anybody for that because it's like, well, I could have checked it, but I didn't. I had no reason to like logically think that I would check it. But that's beside the point. It happened. So that happened, and I was like really upset about that. And I had to sit down after I called my dad and I called AAA. I had to sit down. I was in my passenger seat because I was going to walk back around the car. And I was sitting down and went, I've been driving a fucking time bomb for the last month.
Yeah.
So I had like a little moment there. I was like, well, fuck, that sucks. So called AAA. I got priority towing this time, meaning it only took like 40 minutes for a guy to show up. So, guy shows up. I tell, because the girl on the phone at AAA, I don't think she even remotely understood what I was trying to say. I think she thought that I blew a tire. Mm-hmm. So I said, no, my wheel came off on the highway. My wheel, the whole thing.
The whole rim and all.
Sheared. And then I was very, very specific about my location, and she just didn't enter it right. So the tow truck driver had to call me and confirm. And then I said, hey, because they asked me where I wanted it towed, what shop, and I was like, oh, fuck, I haven't called my mechanic yet. Because I try to do a lot of work myself, but, like, I have a guy that either he does stuff that I can't do, like I don't have the equipment to, or just don't feel like doing, or if I break something, he'll take care of it, and he's a pretty good mechanic, so, it wasn't just a guy, it's a shop. So I hadn't called him yet, so I wasn't even sure if he was open at the time. I was like, yeah, just take it to whatever's closest. I don't really care. So it was like a AAA service center or some shit. And then I had, in the meantime, waiting for the truck, I had time to call the mechanic and verify that he would take the tow in. And then the truck driver called. I said, hey, it's going to go to a different address. It's a lot closer than the one you were given. So, and he had no problems with that. So got towed in, sent to the shop. Sat there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I got it back Thursday. Sorry. Yeah, I got it back Thursday night. I needed... Because I already booked tires, but I hadn't paid for them yet. So I just, I wasn't... entirely concerned about that at the moment. But I ended up at the shop needing front pads and rotors, rear pads and rotors, a wheel bearing, and a new hub with the lug studs on it. And I needed a new rim because my rim that was involved in the incident has a massive hole in it. It's not like fully continuous, but it's like big.
It's like
but
8
it's
inches.
Like cracked.
Yeah.
Down the middle, so it's not like a big hole. It's just like
it's split.
A big crack. Yeah.
It's split right. Yeah, right down.
So, either that was the part the car was resting on, or like one of the lug nut that was remaining went up and then caught into the tire or something.
Yeah.
Or into the wheel. So I needed rims, and I was like, you know what, fuck, I was gonna put aftermarkets on it anyway. I'm just gonna see if I can get some, done like now. So I'm already in here. I already need new rims. There's no sense in buying a factory rim just to wait 6 months and get aftermarket rims. So I went to a tire and rim store, a different one. I said, hey, I need some rims quick. Like within the next week. I ended up getting a rims and tires package, installed, aligned, the whole nine for like $1,500, which isn't bad.
It's about what I paid when I went there. I went to the same place, just a different location.
I ended up with like some racing rims. They literally say racing on them, which I think is really funny, genuinely. Yeah. But I think they look really nice. I'll take a picture and we can put it in the thing. But and I got new tires. I ended up getting Toyos instead. I got Toyo Celsius tires, which I looked at some of the reviews and stuff, and they all have like decent reviews for snow and whatnot.
Yeah.
People were like, yeah, this turns my Honda Civic into a snow machine. I'm like, well, shit, that's good enough for me.
I like snow machines.
I was like, I like snow, I like machine. I like Honda Civic. I've never owned a Honda Civic. So anyway, got all that done. Got my car back. Tires went on Friday. And I drove it home Friday, and I have not really driven it since. I drove it down the driveway and back up the driveway this morning because I got it back from the shop, but I parked it because it was already nighttime. It was like 6 o'clock. So I'm like, all right, I'm not really going anywhere. I have dinner lined up. My dad bought a Walmart chicken, and there was some leftover Walmart chicken. I'm like, shit, I'm just going to eat that. I don't really feel like leaving the house. So had me some Walmart chicken, went outside this morning. Right before Jordan showed up, because all my rims and old rims and tires were in the back of my car. The seat was folded down, and they were all in bags on a blanket, so it wouldn't make everything all dirty. So I got that, and I moved them down to the shop to put them, because I'm probably gonna sell them. And I wanted to make 100% certain that all of my lugs were torqued down.
Yep.
And they were. We got it up on the jack, and I kind of rattle around the tire, and it was...
Gave it a little wiggle.
Yeah, it's really on there. And then I made sure they were tight. So they're all good. That being said, the front pads and rotors that I had already purchased were wrong. I bought them directly from a dealership. That's why I mentioned specifically that I gave them my VIN and everything.
Yeah.
They gave me the wrong part, so my mechanic had to source new ones. But that's beside the point. That just adds to the amount I've been fucked over the last week. But you know what, man? $2,800, and I walk away with my spine and life intact. So I think that's not that bad. A $2,800 car repair bill is not as bad as like a $28,000 hospital visit.
Yeah. $2,800 car repair bill or a spinal reconstruction surgery.
And a $20,000 car that I now have to get insurance to say is totaled.
Yeah.
So I think all in all, I'm just happy that I was able to like walk away. And that I'm in a point in my life where I have transportation, because we now have 3 vehicles. So
yes, even for like the snow incident too, like that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Sorry, this screw is loose. Yeah. So I've been driving the Hummer to school because it's short and I can get it in the parking garage. And I've been every other place I've had to drive, I've been driving the pickup. Because that Hummer is so fucking goofy. I hate that vehicle. It's so dumb. It's like, it's built like a piece of bread. It's built like a cinder block. There's no aerodynamics. Because my Canyon, which is literally the same exact platform. same engine. It was a different transmission because the Hummer's the automatic. Mine had the manual. But literally, like, same driveline and everything. It had way better acceleration, and it was like a much better vehicle to drive because it was designed to be aerodynamic.
Because it wasn't a fucking driving brick.
It wasn't a brick.
Yeah.
Like, this Hummer, it's built like a fucking cinder block, so there's no aerodynamics.
Yeah.
So you get it up to like 80 on the highway, and you're at like top speed. This thing howls. And there's so much wind noise, and the seats are uncomfortable, and there's no visibility because the windows are about yay big, and then the windshield's about yay big. So, and you're way high up too, so you kind of, when you're at a light, you kind of have to lean down and look.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's a goofy vehicle, and I don't really like it very much, and I guess my dad doesn't either.
He's looking to sell it already. So now my statement about selling the Hummer is not technically false.
He's thinking about it. He's not 100% sure yet. He's got to find a guy who's going to pay the right price.
Right.
So, that's on the table for now. But anyway, I've been driving the pickup a lot, and the pickup's a good time. I like that a lot. I like that truck a lot, actually.
Yeah.
Little F-150. I like the stick shift. I got a lot, like, really used to the clutch, because the clutch has 5, maybe 6% life. So it grabs, like, immediately right at the top. But it's a good time. It gets out of its own way. It's fast enough. The gearing's okay. It really shifts and acts, believe it or not, like a truck.
Yeah.
You have to, like, grab that shifter, and you gotta get that bitch in the gear.
Makes sense, yeah.
And it'll get there. But and I was on my way home yesterday. And I shifted into second gear coming off a light, and then all of a sudden there was no resistance in my hand. I went, that's weird, because this transmission I usually have to break my damn arm to put it in gear. And I looked down, and my hand was the shift knob.
Yeah.
Just pulled right off the end. I went, well, fuck. That's not good. So I put it back on. I jammed it back on with my fist. And then I continued home. There's no incident after that. And then my dad glued it back on, like, properly with, like, construction adhesive.
Yeah, that bitch ain't going anywhere once that's settled.
So, all in all, it wasn't a great couple of weeks for me.
Yeah.
But today, Fiesta's all in order. Bills are paid. I'm having a good time. Yeah. Hanging out with my pal Jordan.
Made a school project for you.
Worked on a school project, which I thought went pretty well.
Yeah, little videos. It was cool. It was very cool. My recent weeks have been a lot less eventful.
I've been just talking for half an hour. What's going on with you?
My recent weeks have been a lot less eventful. So, if you've been listening to the podcast for really the last 6 months, probably, if not longer, you know that I've been hyped for Dying Light 2.
Wait a second. What's Dying Light 2?
So Dying Light 2 is a follow-up.
Is that something you were excited for or something?
Yeah. So you see, there was this game in 2016 called Dying Light.
I haven't heard of that one.
So what it did basically was it took zombies, a very oversaturated topic, and made it interesting again, and added really cool, unique elements.
Was like that one. It was like that Dead Island clone.
Yeah, it was like that, exactly. It took the Dead Island formula and actually made it fun, and now they've put Dead Island 2 out of business. RIP. But anyway, and that's why Dead Island 2 is never being made.
So Dying Light 2, that came out, which came out earlier than I thought it did. I thought it came out like next week.
No, yeah. So it came out February 4th, a Friday.
I was thinking 14th. That's might be why.
I wonder what is coming out the 14th. I know
Valentine's Day.
Ooh.
I have a doctor's appointment.
That's
what's coming out the 14th.
Horizon Forbidden West comes out soon too. But anyway, with Dying Light 2, yes, it was something I was excited about in case you didn't know. It came out on a Friday. I took that Friday off and the Monday.
Yeah.
I played Dying Light 2 from Friday to Monday. I put a total of 24 hours into it over the 4 days, which is actually not a lot if you consider 4 days for playing. But
6 hours a day.
As an adult, that's the most I could do. Like Friday, I played most of the day.
I'll tell you this.
And then I was busy. So
I'll tell you that 6 hours is decent. Make sure he's not chewing on that cable.
He's just sniffing.
Okay, because I saw him.
Oh, now he's chewing.
Just hit him or something. Don't hit him, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Push him away. Oh, that's something I have to mention. in the snowed in episodes, I was messing with the cat, and the cat was getting real feisty. It was latched onto my arm and stuff. And there's a point where I move my hand and I like push him off the couch. I do this, push him off the couch, and I say, "Get out of here, man!" And it because my arm's off camera, and it looks like I was hitting him. I don't hit my cat.
Does it?
I don't hit my cat. If I hit my cat, he wouldn't come up and like hang out with me.
Yeah, true.
Like he would be scared.
Yeah.
So if I say, if it looked like I was hitting him, I wasn't. If anything, I was nudging him to get him off the couch.
Just pushing him away.
And yeah, so
yeah.
I just want to clear that up. I don't think anyone would have thought that, but it just when I was looking at the footage, it kind of looked like that, and I wanted to clear that air.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
That's beside the point. Dying Light 2, 24 hours, 4 days.
4 days. Yeah.
So that's like a lot of time still. I'll tell you this. I put recently, like a couple months ago, I put 9 hours into. I played. Or 9 or 12 hours into fucking Stardew Valley in a day. And after I stopped playing, I felt autistic. I felt just different. It felt like a part of my brain had been removed. I got up and I was like, oh my God. I just like, and then I went to go get food and I just like couldn't drive anymore.
So that's kind of where I was at, is I buckled down Friday. I was like, all right, cool. Finish downloading, finish extracting. The game came out earlier. It came out Thursday at 9 p.m.
Yeah, I looked like Saturday morning and you had like 10 hours in or something.
So
and I went, holy shit, I guess it is good.
So I played an hour on Thursday because it launched early, and I was like, yeah, this is cool. Went to bed, woke up Friday, let's see, went to work, and I was like, all right, it's time. Sit your ass down, boot it up, playing the game.
That's always a good feeling.
Going hard into it, and I was like, this is fun. This is a good time. I put, like you said, like probably 9 hours in on Friday. Saturday, didn't really touch it. I wasn't able to. Sunday, played it a little bit, and then Monday went kind of hard again.
You were off Monday?
Yeah. Not to mention Sifu came out in between, which I'll touch on, but not really get into. But so Dying Light 2 came out, and I had been putting these hours into it, and I do have to say one thing about the game.
Yeah.
Every media outlet that I saw, at least the ones I saw, was trying to spin it like it was somehow a Cyberpunk debacle.
Oh yeah. I saw a little bit of this, and you and I had talked about it. That shit's confusing to me because if I remember right, like I've seen a little gameplay, and it looks like a perfectly fine game. It looks like a good time.
If you remotely think this game had a launch anything like Cyberpunk,
you weren't there for Cyberpunk's launch then, bro.
You were either not there and only heard about it, or have played it recently, or you're just fucking belligerent. You're just stupid.
You are stupid. You should be put in a machine.
Yes.
The Cyberpunk launch was, I think, the
disastrous.
worst. I think it's the worst launch I've ever seen in general since the Challenger.
Jesus Christ. Oh, that was interesting. I was like, okay. So, the Cyberpunk launch, let's put it this way. The game launched so bad that the company got sued. Dying Light, the Techland is not being sued.
I saw, like I said, I saw some gameplay and it looks pretty good. I like the because it's supposed to be like decently far in the future, right?
So that's one thing I mistook that on the podcast. I said it was hundreds of years in the future, and I was incorrect. It is, the original game is present time. Then they cure the virus, and then 15 years later, it comes back, and this game is like 15 years after that.
It's like the Omicron variant.
It's literally a variant. It's a variant.
Oh shit, dude! It's social commentary, bro.
The
social commentary in video games, you can't do it. You can't do it. Can't do it. Despite the fact most video games are like solely reliant on social commentary, you can't do it.
But the game itself is actually really good. There's a lot of stuff being blown out of proportion. I did write like an essay for this. There's a lot of stuff being blown out of proportion. So one of the biggest things that people talk about is the story is bad. And now I'm going to get into spoilers for the beginning of Dying Light 2 and then the entirety of Dying Light 1. So if you haven't played them, skip to the timestamp or something. But essentially, Dying Light 1. You are a specialist working for a company called the GRE that you're like, hey, there's a cure. Let's investigate. Yeah. You land by a parachute, you get stuck in a telephone pole, you cut your chute, you fall, you get hurt, you get bit, you get infected. You get saved by a group called the Runners. They're survivors. They're parkour runners, hence the name. So they save you, and then you're like, damn, you know, I worked for this government agency that wants to kill everyone in this city by bombing the city. But you know what? I kind of like these guys. They saved me. They seem like they're good
these
people.
guys ain't so bad. I
Let's
feel
save
like
'em.
I would feel bad if they got vaporized by a nuclear armament.
Right.
I really slurred that one. I apologize.
Nuclear.
I took a real big bash to the head the other day. You know, I was looking at the car while it was dark out, and I was like, I lifted it up like this with my hands, and I dropped it right on my head.
Makes sense. But anyway, you're this guy. You're like, yeah, I'm gonna save these people. He has a change of heart, essentially.
That's fair.
Wants to save these people, and
That's like a pretty classic video game story.
yeah, pretty much. And essentially, the game ends with you have the cure. The GRE radios you and is like, yo, hey, get the cure. Let's exit, and then we're gonna bomb the city. And your character goes, nah, cure's staying with me, and game ends. That's it. Game ends. You decided to side with the survivors, and you keep the cure. So people are like, that story is fucking great. And don't get me wrong, not a bad story, awesome characters. Your guy's kind of just generic dude, you know?
It's perfectly fine. It just it kind of wraps itself up at the end.
Yeah, just a pretty good story, right? Dying Light 2.
I imagine it's not like a 10 out of 10 experience.
No,
but
by all means, probably like a good solid 8. You know, just it's better than a Ubisoft game, but it's no Red Dead 2.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, yeah.
So, Dying Light 2, the game that everyone seems to think has such a bad story. You start the game. You're a pilgrim now, which is a subsidiary of the Night Runners.
Oh, so you run the Mayflower?
Basically, dude. So you play as a pilgrim, which is basically a knockoff subsidiary of the Night Runners, the people who did parkour and ran night missions.
So you start off and you're kind of like the same thing. You're an outsider dropping into a place that you're not supposed to be in.
Yep.
Or not familiar with.
So you're vibing, you're doing your thing. You're like, yeah, dude, I'm a pilgrim. I run errands. I am a messenger.
I got a cool
I'm
little
hunting
hat.
a guy. Now, keep in mind, you're hunting a guy who experimented on you as a kid. Well, Dying Light, you're hunting a guy, the original Dying Light, hunting a guy who turned against that government agency. That's the whole reason you go to that city in the first place. Same kind of concept. You're chasing after someone. So Dying Light 2, you're chasing after this guy. You meet up with another guy who's from Dying Light 1, by the way. He's a character in that game. And he's like, hey, we found him. He's over there in that city. And you're like, I bet we're going to the city. And what do you know? You go to the city, just like in Dying Light 1, and you get infected.
Wow.
Within the first hour of the game, you get infected by a volatile. Right? All right, cool. So, the story can't be, any similar, right? It's completely different. Oh, okay. You get infected. Oh, you get hurt. You get saved by a group of survivors who are trying to fight against a communist force.
Oh, wait. So, okay, hang on. Let me run this back a minute here. Dying Light 1, the masterpiece.
Yep.
The 12 out of 10 masterpiece.
Yep.
You are dropped by a different agency to find a person who went against that agency. Right? And then you get attacked by zombies.
Get infected. Yep. Don't forget
you
that
get
part.
infected, and then you get saved by a group of survivors that you take a liking to. And in Dying Light 2, you are sent by an agency to find a guy.
You're just hunting a guy who wronged you. You're just a survivor.
Oh,
so that's the only difference. But you're still hunting someone.
You're there to find a person.
Yeah, you just want to kill him
and then
get some answers.
You get attacked by zombies and infected. And then a group of survivors takes you in, and you take a liking to them.
Yeah, and you take a liking. You begin to actually pit sides between
this negative 85 out of 10 game.
Pretty much, yeah. So then you basically play the game as this guy who's infected, who's working with the survivors. And you can, in this game, the difference being has choices, so you can side with the, Communist Party fucking team. They're called the Peacekeepers, the PKs, or you can side with the survivors. Okay, cool. But somehow that story is so bad. And this is where I kind of get annoyed with it, is people are like, man, the story's so bad. That's the parts that are similar. This game expands entirely on that similarity.
I'm going to be honest. It's just people are so fucking stupid. And it's really getting on my nerves lately. It's people are just genuinely really stupid. They just say things. They don't even oh, IGN said this, so I'm going to say it.
Yeah.
Oh, who gives a shit? Make your own damn opinion.
Now, in the first game where you're just hunting this guy, he's just a dude. He's kind of like the alpha survivor who has his own clique.
And alpha male.
And he's just trying to be a piece of shit and steal stuff from the other survivors and stuff. He's like the king, right? Lord of the land, we'll call him.
A landlord?
Yeah, there you go, landlord. In this game, the guy you're hunting was a scientist for that company, the GRE, which after the first game, the virus was cured, and they got shut down by the government because the government was like, "What the fuck, dude? You made the outbreak? That's your fault. What the hell?
Yeah.
You're shut down." And then they secretly kept doing studies, and that's where the second virus came from. So you're hunting this guy who was one of their scientists who tortured you and your sister to experiment, and now you're trying to find your sister. So your goal is to find him, get your answers, and kill him, and then find your sister, or at least figure out what happened. So there's that subplot that the first game didn't have. Now, you find him, and you're like, oh, this is going to be a wrap. And it turns out that he's a superhuman. That the experiments he was running made you a superhuman, and you didn't even know it. And he's a superhuman who's even stronger than you.
So that they expand upon that too?
Yeah.
That sounds
I haven't
cool,
completed
actually.
the game to figure out exactly what it's going to become, but there's these vials that you're taking to, it's basically an inhibitor to upgrade your character. And the more you're taking, it's something he actually juices up his soldiers with, and he experiments on them and juices them with it, and they become like powerful. And he's super powerful. He's like part vampire. It's fucking weird. And that
probably makes sense in the context of the story, but yeah, that was kind of out of left field.
Yeah, it's strange, and you find out suddenly, you're like, everyone's talking to you like the survivors, and they're like, man, you're like really good at fighting, and you're just kind of like, yeah, I got a lot of practice, and you're completely naive to the fact that anything's different, and they're always just subtly saying things, and then he finally tells you, he's like, yeah, you're literally one of many super soldiers that I made. Like, I made a person who's faster, stronger, can go farther, much more stamina, and just has, like, the reflexes of a god, basically. He's like, you're one of them.
Yeah.
And then you try to fight him, and he's like, oh, but I'm better than that, so this ain't gonna work. And it all clues you in by he attacks your squad and kills everyone and does the same thing to you, but then you wake up, and you're like, how did I survive? And then that's when he's like, oh, shit, let me see your arm. Right? He ends up, like, capturing you, and he's like, oh, you got the marking. You're one of them. Oh, cool. I'm going to kill you now. And then you're like, no, please don't. Where's my sister, you bitch? He's like, your sister. You're Aiden. You're the one. And then he gets interrupted, and then the story is going to unfold into more of, like, what's special about your specific character. Dying Light 1 didn't have that. Didn't even have the iota of a subplot that would kind of hint at things. It was... The main point of Dying Light 2 was the same as Dying Light 1, and now there's just an added subplot. So I don't understand how it's bad. I can, maybe you can argue, like, well, yeah, maybe the characters are more likable in, the first game for some of them. There was more of them or something. Sure. But it's not the 7 out of 10 versus, like you said, negative 12 out of 10.
Well,
like,
think about it this way. There's this other game where you're hired by a government agency to hunt down a few bad people that you used to have some kind of connection with and kill them.
Yeah, I heard about that game. It's pretty bad, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
no one liked it
terrible.
at all.
It's one of the worst games of all time. Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah. I don't know who's ever even wasted their time playing that
who's ever played that
I
one.
heard it was so bad that they made a sequel, and that sequel failed even harder.
That sequel was terrible. You get character development with all these guys that you killed. That's stupid. That's awful. That's a stupid game. That's a stupid plot.
Yeah. I know, right? Like, just crazy to me. Yeah.
People have, like, genuine, just, like, negative IQs.
Yeah.
I just feel like people will read something and then that's their opinion now.
Yeah. Pretty much. But I spent a little longer than I intended on story.
And it's always the people who don't even play the damn game.
Yeah, they just watch like a Let's Play or something.
Yeah, like I saw gameplay of it, and I haven't played the game because I don't usually buy new games. Mm-hmm. And I didn't play the first one, but I might. I mean, how intertwined are they?
Well, see, so the first one's gonna the first one and especially the DLC are gonna specifically tie directly into the second one. I was just saying
I might just buy it, but I might.
The first one's so cheap that I would, and it's one of those.
Well,
games...
I have the first one, and I have the DLC for it.
The first one's short; you could blitz through it. The second one, you really can't because it's more of an RPG. But still, they're both RPGs, but the second one's a lot.
Maybe it'll be worth my time. I've been playing a lot of 7 Days to Die lately.
Yeah, maybe do it while you're on a zombie kick.
I've been,
or you should play Days Gone.
Well, I was thinking about this. I'm like, man, I finished up Witcher. Let's jump into Cyberpunk. I'll play Cyberpunk. Played Cyberpunk for like an hour. I didn't even get to like the heist part where you.
Please tell me it was still buggy as shit.
No, it's actually they fixed a lot of
Really?
stuff. Like it's an actually decent experience now. It still doesn't run very well.
Right.
I apologize. For some reason, running it through my compatibility tools on Linux, I can't get DLSS to work, so that's probably part of it. Which worked fine on God of War, but
Yeah, it's
not
weird.
on Cyberpunk. But that's beside the point. And I didn't even get to like the heist part, which is like 2 hours into the game, maybe.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I'm really not having a good time. So
Damn.
I stopped playing, and I was scrolling through my library, and I went, huh. You know what I haven't played in a fat minute? 7 Days to Die. And I had like 150 hours in that game. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to play the shit out of this. And I did a little research into it because they updated like 3 or 4 times. And they added like a ton of stuff. I wouldn't say it's a different game, but it's like
A vastly improved game.
a vastly improved game. Like they changed a lot of the skill system. They changed how a lot of the mechanics work for the better, and some of them for the worse. But it's fine. Still in alpha, that game. It is entering its 9th year in development.
Wow.
It has been on Steam since 2013.
In fairness, Dying Light 2 was in development for 8 years. Red Dead was in development for like 8 or 9. But those are vastly bigger games.
Here's the thing. The reason it's still in alpha, I'll tell you this, and the community's really starting to complain about this, is that the developers, the fun pimps, they will, instead of putting effort into like rounding out and finishing out like the story mode they want to add, like the questing system, the bandit system that they want to add, they just spend like most of their time and effort changing the way certain mechanics work so that players can't play the game a certain way. So like there were some ways you could take advantage of the AI, whereas like, well, what you could do is you could make a base and use this certain shape where they saw it as a valid way to get to you, but they couldn't actually walk on it. So they would walk on it and fall. And then you could just kind of pick them off while they're on the ground.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, we can't do that. You can't do that.
They took all the cheese out of the game.
So they changed that. There was another thing where people were building like the foundation of their bases out of pillars, because you can fit, I think, 4 in the space of 1 block. And if you're fully upgraded, it's like a crazy amount of durability. Mm-hmm. And they changed that, and then the community complained, and they changed it back.
Yeah.
They changed the system where you used to be able to just live underground, and the zombies couldn't really get to you, which I think was a fine system because you could utilize it sometimes, but if you did it all the time, the game was fucking boring.
Yeah.
So you could do that. So they just gave the zombies like auger hands, basically. They can just punch through the dirt and dig down to you, and they know the exact path to get to you, essentially.
Yeah.
So they changed that. As I feel like instead of doing all that, you could have just like, you could add in like the mechanic where they can dig and just, but don't make it like ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, that is weird.
You can add in that mechanic, or like some zombies can dig, some can't, or like this zombie type can dig, because there's a ton of different types of zombies.
Yeah.
So like this one can dig, this one can't, this one can jump, this one can't, kind of thing, right? I feel like that would have made more sense, but shit, I'm not a developer. But if they are adding stuff slowly. They added a ton of new vehicles because it was up until I think Alpha 18 or 19, the only vehicle was the mini bike. And the way the crafting and upgrading system worked was stupid beforehand. It was like you would have spam crafting, which I'm glad they removed. Was like your first day, you would spend the whole day punching wood and getting a shit ton of wood. And then you would spend the first night crafting hundreds of wooden clubs, because every time you crafted it, it would go up a level, or like up a certain amount of levels or something. Mm-hmm. So then you would have like a level 100 fucking club, and it would be pretty decent for the first, week or two.
Yeah.
And then as you craft them, they get better, which is a stupid way to do it. What they have now is they have skills. So like, and they changed the way it works. So instead of like between 0 and 600 for quality, it's between 0 and 6.
Yeah.
So it's like if you put a point into this skill, you can now craft level 2 clubs, and then 3, then 4, then 5, then 6.
That made sense.
So it's just like it works a lot better. There's skills that give you certain recipes now, rather than you just having to find a recipe.
Yeah.
So they added a bunch of cool stuff with the skill system. They added like craftable guns, like pipe guns and regular guns and stuff. They added a bunch of new guns. I think they added like an LMG and like a double barrel shotgun and an AK and a whole bunch of stuff. And the vehicles thing that I was just talking about, they added a bicycle, which you get from the trader, like from doing quests. He gives you one. Once you do 7 tier 1 quests, he gives you a bike, or it's one of your options. And then they have the mini bike and a motorcycle, and then a 4x4 like a Jeep, and then a gyrocopter. You can build a helicopter.
It's like Far Cry. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's awesome. I think that's because it's a game that doesn't really take itself very seriously. It's like, yeah, it's a gritty like zombie survival crafting game, but it's like it's still got a lot of goofy stuff. It doesn't really take itself very seriously. So I think that's just goofy enough, and they make it difficult to get. You need to have like maxed out intelligence, and you need to like put all of your points into I think the skill's called Grease Monkey. You put all your points into that, and then you can craft it, but then you need like a ton of materials to do it. So it's not like
easy to do.
Yeah, it's not like, oh well, I spent 2 days and I made a helicopter.
Yeah.
So it's not that stupid. But I've been playing it a lot. I only have a bicycle now, and I think I'm on like day 13. So I was just spending the last few days gearing up for the second horde, because there's one every 7 days.
Yeah.
And they changed a lot of like how the loot and difficulty factors work. So different biomes have different effects on your looting. So you have your loot stage, which goes up by 1 with every level. So like if you're level 10, your loot stage is 10, but that's your base loot stage. So if you're in like a forest biome in the middle of the wilderness, it'll be 10. Mm-hmm. But you go to a city, it gives you like a +3. Or if you go to a certain point of interest, depending on how, because they're tiered as well. It's like you can have a tier 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. It will give you like I think up to a 20 or 40% increase.
Wow.
If you go to a tier 5 POI. Or something ridiculous like that. It might be like a +3 for every level or something.
Yeah.
And then different biomes have different modifiers on loot stage. So if you're on day 1 and you go into like the wasteland biome, which is really difficult to survive in, your loot stage is like 35 or something. So you'll find excellent gear, but you got to survive.
Yeah, with that gear. Yeah.
Yeah, so and like I think winter has it, like the snow biome has its own buff, which is slightly less than the wasteland, and then slightly less than that is the desert.
Right.
It's there's a lot of in-depth stuff.
Seems like they vastly expanded it, so that's good, because that game used to suck ass when it came out.
Yeah. Alpha, I think I haven't played since like Alpha 17 or Alpha 18 maybe. That game, back then, I put a shitload of time into it, was not a good game. No. I went in and I edited and changed and added crafting recipes, because I'm like, this is just fundamental stuff missing from the game.
Yeah.
So I added my own crafting recipes for stuff. So now those are just all in the game, and you don't have to do any of that.
That's good, at least. Keep it simple.
So it's a good time. If I think it's $25, and I think there's a Steam sale going on right now.
Yeah.
So if
I own it, so I should try it.
if you're looking to pick it up, you should pick it up. It's a good time.
Sooner rather than later, baby.
Just look at like a beginner's guide because it's kind of an in-depth game. You
Right.
can definitely play it without like a guide or something, but the guide just makes it a bit easier because there's a lot of skills. There's not a lot, but there's some skills that when you're low enough level, it doesn't really have an effect.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's Lucky Looter, which gives you plus 5% loot stage, but it always rounds down. So if your loot stage is like level 1, it will be 1.05, but then it'll just round back down to 1.
Yeah.
So it's not worth having until you're like level 20 or 30.
Makes sense.
So it's just look at a guide. It'll just give you some general recommendations. But it's a really good time if I'm really into the survival crafting genre though. So
Yeah, that makes sense. But real quick retouch on Dying Light too. With the gameplay.
very zombie heavy episode.
Very zombie heavy. So with it, we already talked about the story obviously a little bit and how it relates to the first game. The gameplay is pretty much the first game, but just like vastly improved. And they did the one thing that I said.
You can do like parkour like combat now, right?
Yeah, you could do that in the first game, but now it's an actual like skill tree.
Oh, really? You
there's
can
a-
like
there-
improve upon it.
It's an RPG game now, or a more in-depth RPG game now. So there's classes, and one of the classes is medics, which is basically relying on having high stamina, lower health, and parkour attacks. So vaulting, kicking, drop
you
kicking,
can kind
things
of
like
do
that.
like a, oh well, I want to buff into like strength, or when I want to buff into like agility more so.
Exactly. There's a combat skill tree, there's a parkour skill tree, and then there's the different gear that gives you different buffs in different categories. But
Yeah.
you can do pretty much anything you really want. It's not super like if you do this, you're fucked in every other category. It's pretty free with it.
Yeah.
But that's the best part is like the actual gameplay, the moving, the running, the jumping, the climbing, the drop kicking, the crazy shit. And the way it kind of ties into the story too is like you start off as like you're the pilgrim, you're just a badass, but you lose it when you get infected because now you've lost like a lot of your stamina and you're weakened and stuff. So that's where you have to rebuild yourself. So like people were complaining like the skills you have to learn drop kick, and I'm like, whoa.
Well, I mean,
It's for one, it's a gameplay thing, and also it's part of the virus, you know.
You know, at the end of the day, sometimes like an old guy will cough into your mouth and you get like tuberculosis. It happens.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you're weak and you can't really, and then when the bad guy tries to fight you, he kills you.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, the gameplay is very fast, fluid, and they did the one thing that I wanted really bad with the moment-to-moment gameplay that I remember talking about on the podcast and Chris saying, I don't think they'll do that because it could become too boring. And it was when I said, I want more realistic parkour and not video game parkour. And you were like, yeah, they could go too far, though, and make it like...
Yeah, well, my point is,
too-
if they made it too far, I understand, like, in the first one, if I remember right, you had, like, magnet hands.
magnet hands, and you're just like a floating head. You're just
Same thing with
jumping around.
Same thing with, like, Breath of the Wild. And a lot of games are copying this, where you're just Spider-Man.
Yeah, you can just climb everything.
Like, Link was just, like, climbing up sheer cliff faces. I'm like, where are you putting your hands, guy?
Yeah, pretty much. So in this game, in the first game, you're just like a floating head. You're just running, jumping, climbing.
Mm-hmm.
It was really good for the time. Like, it was one of the only games that stuck to first person for everything. But in this game, it's up to like 11. It's like
Or, like, everything has collisions. And
everything
you
has
have to...
collisions. Your hands aren't just magnet hands. Now you have stamina that affects your climbing, which you didn't in the first game.
That's good.
And like
I wasn't saying that the because it sounds very Breath of the Wild. I wasn't saying the Breath of the Wild system was bad.
No,
I
it's
was just
for
saying
its
it's
genre,
like,
though.
it's kind of goofy.
Yeah.
And I think that might be a more realistic because it's like, is it a situation where like as you climb or as you parkour your stamina, you have like a limited time you can kind of.
Yeah, when you're hanging, if you're suspended, you have a limited time as your stamina drains. If you're climbing a building,
So it's
same
very
thing.
much Breath of the Wild, and I think they very much. I think they innovated on that stamina system.
Yeah.
Because a lot of games have that shit. Red Dead 2 kind of has that.
Red Dead 2 has it like
To a degree.
too excessive in my opinion. Like if you go in the water in Red Dead 2, your
yeah.
stamina's like
You exist in the water for 30 seconds and you turn into a corpse.
yeah. But so with the gameplay, you have these different things kind of limiting you, but they made the parkour very momentum based. So for example,
cool.
if you're running and you kind of turn to the side, it's no longer like, oh, I'm a floating camera that's going sideways. Your character bobs as they're kind of hobbling sideways. So it's animated in a way that you're running forward and your camera's bobbing as their head's moving. And if you look to the side while running, because they have to turn their body and start kind of hopping sideways, the camera will do so. And it's really cool.
I think it's more of like a technology thing, because the first one came out 7 years ago?
Yeah.
Oh, 2016. So 6 years ago.
Yeah. It might even be this game was in development, I think they said, for like 8 years conceptually, and then real development kicked off after the first one.
So
it was like 2016,
it's
somewhere
probably
around
a
there.
technology thing.
But it's really cool. Like, even they have it set up in the world where there's specific parkour animations for certain objects. So like, you'll be running and there's a piece of plywood with a hole in it, and initially, when you go to jump through it at like level 1, you'll kind of just like jump, grab the top, and swing through it. And then if you level up your parkour, instead of doing that, you'll go faster. You'll dive through it, and the camera will stay in first person. You'll dive and roll on the other side and pick up running.
That's pretty cool.
And it's really cool. Everything stays in first person, which is what I always loved about the games. It's like how God of War does the one take.
Yeah.
This game stays in first person. There's no third person cutscenes. Everything is first person. If your character's fighting someone in a cutscene, completely first person. If you're being hanged by a noose, it's completely in first person, because that happens in the first hour of the game. It's all in first person, every single thing, and it's so good.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, they added the momentum that I wanted to it. The gameplay is, like I said, just vastly improved. There's an RPG side to it, like I said, with like levels. Like districts are level 1 to 2 or 2 to 4 or 4 to 6, and I'm like, or 5 to 6. I mean, I'm like, that part didn't sit with me well at the start when I was first getting in, because I am playing the game on hard. So I was like, this just kind of sucks. Like, I just feel like a baby bitch. But now that I have somewhat decent gear and a very good understanding of the mechanics in the game, I'm like, okay, I don't mind the RPG elements too much. But it's a weird mix.
Is it like is it in that way that it kind of feels like an afterthought? Like God of War felt like that a lot.
I don't want to say an afterthought, but it's in a way where, like, okay, I have a katana. It's a level 1 katana. I have a level 4 katana. It's a zombie game. It doesn't need to be. I'm still using a sword. Why is one sword taking 12 hits to drop a standard zombie, and then the other one, because it's all fancy and it's level 4, drops them in one hit? When in Dying Light 1, it was very much like, here's a strong axe. You hit them, their head comes off. In Dying Light 2, it's like, well, no, their head will only come off if you first deplete their life bar. I'm like, I don't think every zombie needs a fucking health bar.
That's fair.
That's the part that I didn't care for.
Yeah, in God of War, I kind of felt like, I mean, this RPG element is, you could have just, like, honestly even not had it.
Just not had it, yeah.
The thing is, like, if you just had, how you have, like, the axe and then the blades and the shield, and you just get, like, or sorry, it's like, I think it's just the axe and the blades. You just get, like, specific items that are used to upgrade it. Yeah. Like the frozen flame, or the I think, what's the other one called?
Chaos something?
It's like Chaos Flame or Chaos Ember or something. Where you just have that. If they did that with, like, armor, I think it would have just, and then they could have just removed, like, the whole skill set thing. Yeah. Because, yeah, that's nice to have, and you can do a lot of different interesting things with it. But, like, I think the base abilities that Kratos have are still pretty insane.
Yeah. Which is how it should be, because given the character.
Well, yeah, but, like, for the first, few hours of the game, before you find the apples to increase your health, you are very fragile.
Very fragile. I played it on hard. Trust me, I fucking know, dude.
I played the half of the first game. I was like, this game is so fucking hard. I played like half of the first game, I played half of the game my first time, thinking it was incredibly difficult because I wasn't getting those things, the health increases. Yeah. So I was playing on stock health through like half the game. I'm like, man, this sucks.
This just blows.
Sucks. I like the story, but, like, I'm having a terrible time with this. Yeah. And even even playing it again, I thought it was sufficiently difficult. If I was a better gamer, I feel like if I cranked up the difficulty, it'd still be really difficult. Yeah. I found normal challenging enough. So
yeah. No, playing it on hard was very rewarding, but it was tough. And that's how I feel with Dying Light 2, is like the first honestly, even now, but like the first maybe 16 hours or so, I just kept fucking falling to my death until
you get used to
I get used to like judging jumps and also getting skills that stop you from doing that. So like it's almost like Witcher-esque. For the first, if you're just base level in The Witcher 3, like Geralt steps off a staircase a little too soon and he dies. In this game, it's like you're on a basic bitch rooftop that, like in the first game, no problem. In the second game, if you're just base level, you'll just hit the ground and fucking die. So eventually you get a skill that lets you roll, and then you get a skill that lets you roll but from higher distances.
Okay.
So until I got that, it was pretty rough.
Yeah, it is active improvements to
that
that's fair.
that kind of essence. So I was like, okay, so that was kind of frustrating. The only real issue, I have two actual issues or gripances, as we might call them, with the game. Gripance number one is some of the climbing animations the animations themselves are good, but that's the buggiest part in some ways. Like, okay, I was climbing a ladder.
I can imagine.
A ladder, and I got to the top where there was a square cutout for you to climb through. I looked to the left a little too soon, and what it did was when you look to the side on the ladder, you'll reach out so you can jump and grab something. Well, the character reached out and grabbed the edge of the cutout and then hung on it. And I was like, okay, no big deal. And then it started getting stuck in a loop where you would grab the ladder, go back to the thing, grab the ladder, go back to the thing, and just going and just grabbing like different surfaces. And I'm like, okay, stop. I had to like just stop hitting buttons, hit the spacebar, and let him pull himself out.
Bro, literally Cyberpunk. You encountered a bug, literally Cyberpunk 2077.
And now, here's the real gripe. This is number one. That's why I said it last, because it's probably got the biggest implications about your actual experience with the game.
Uh-oh.
The side missions
Suck.
when you start, the side missions are pretty good.
Oh, okay.
It's like, oh, there's a family. Like, there's a whole side mission where this kid's like, yo, I need to get food for my family. But it's infested. And you're like, all right, listen, I'll help you out, bro. I got this. You get food for him, and you go back, and you find out that he just has his zombified parents locked up. And he's feeding them in the hopes to cure them someday. And it's, like, kind of sad and, like, real. But then you do those side missions where you're like, oh, this is actually really good.
This is a
and then
decent
every side
quest.
mission after that, until you get to the next area of the game, is like, here's a parkour challenge. You go to the side mission that has like this really cool title. You're like, it's going to be a good story. And it's literally the same fucking thing every time. It's a guy going, man, I sell meats that we get and I'm late on my delivery. So can you deliver these? And you expect it to be like a challenge where you have to like, fight bandits. And it's like parkour challenge. So then it gives you a timer to run to the location. You're like, okay, that's not too bad. Then you go to the next guy, and it's like, oh, this is a parkour challenge. That can't be too bad. Oh, you have books you have to deliver. Okay, parkour challenge. Okay, cool. You go to this guy, and he's like, hey, I'm bored. This is literally one of the side missions. Hey, I'm bored, so I made up a game where we go on a rooftop, we alert the zombies, and we hit them with a baseball bat and send them over the edge. And then you're like, this sounds like it could be a fun side mission. I could hang out with the boy and start smacking stuff. Oh, it's a combat challenge, so I'm going to hit start, and it's going to put me on a timer to knock off as many zombies as I can. And then the mission's going to end, and you never hear from that character again.
So, okay. So, it's the exact thing that I said was going to happen. They have a bunch of filler missions. They have a bunch of fluff missions, which is annoying, but again, like I said,
as expected.
It's the point that I made in that same, I don't remember which episode it was. Games are kind of expected to have that in it now.
Yeah.
Like a video game that has like a bunch of filler bullshit in it is like, it's expected. You're kind of almost, you feel cheated.
You're desensitized. Yeah.
I think always bring it back to Red Dead 2. They did really well with this. Like the actual missions that they give you, like the side stuff they give you, is like kind of samey. It's not like incredibly dynamic and different.
But the characters are great.
But you meet like a bunch of wacky, crazy characters, and they get into a bunch of goofy situations, and they do like decent side stuff. That's repetitive technically, like from a gameplay and programming standpoint.
Yeah.
But is elevated by the characters. So
like everything else in the game.
Like everything else, yeah. So if that game had flat like dude guy character,
like Valhalla.
Yeah, or like just any other like generic FPS where it's just like some schmuck is the character and he has like literally no character to him other than like, I'm a guy with a gun. That game would be dog shit. It would be so bad.
Yeah.
The gameplay is not usually what people come to Red Dead 2 for. But if they kind of did something like that, where you're meeting some like wacky, kooky characters,
Yeah.
then I think it'd be interesting. Like even if it was like an escort kind of thing, where like, oh, you show up and you have to escort this person somewhere. I don't know if there's anything like that.
Not really escorts. There's a couple of like, okay, we're gonna loot this building, and then zombies show up and they're like, I'm gonna search. You defend the location, like that kind of thing.
That's interesting enough. I feel like after you do like 3 or 4 of those, it'd be like, okay, well, unless you get supremely good stuff from it.
Yeah. No, I got you. No, you get like it's usually just like a fairly straightforward mission.
Yeah.
The one thing I do appreciate though is even though it took me a little bit to actually figure this out, because I would just see the side mission icon and then go to it and then be disappointed if it was like one of those challenges. What I appreciate is if you actually highlight it on the map, it tells you.
Yeah.
So it labels it a side quest, which is where it's a little deceiving, but then it will say like for example the meat delivery one, it'll be like, butcher shop challenge. Okay. And then every other side mission has like a catchy name, so like Undying Love or a plague among us or something, and you're
Among Us,
and you're like, okay, this isn't a challenge, this is a mission.
Yeah.
So then you know which ones you can kind of pick and choose.
Yeah. That's a very Ubisoft thing.
Yeah.
Ubisoft does a shitload of things like that. I noticed that a lot in Far Cry 5, where they have like little challenges and things you can do. They were kind of fun. Like Far Cry as a series, I think 6 brought it back around, but like 3 was decent. 4 and 5, and Primal, they just like weren't really, especially 5 wasn't really trying to take itself seriously.
Yeah, 3 is like fucking awesome.
5
it's like
had
the highest rated one too.
5 had some like, I don't usually do these dumb stupid challenges in games because it usually annoys me, and I'm like, oh, it's just extra content. That is just nothing.
That is just unrelated to the story.
It's essentially, how do I put this? It's like, it's empty calories, but for games. It's like, I gain nothing out of this. I get some experience points, but it's not even like a significant enough amount for me to want to do this. But
it's like if you just want to spend more time playing a video game.
Yeah, but they had these ones called the Clutch Nixon stunts, and it was basically based on
Evel Knievel.
Evel Knievel, and it was just stupid stuff. It's like, oh, drive this muscle car up a ramp over a bunch of explosives through a flaming hoop, and then do another thing where you drive it directly into the water, and you're gonna do that in 25 seconds or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's a bunch of dumb stuff. Or like do like 16 flips in this plane.
Yeah.
So it's like it was goofy, and it had like this dumb side story with it. It's like, oh, well, in this stunt, he did this and this, and it's the only time it's ever been done, or some shit like that.
Yeah.
So it's
good times.
Yeah, so it kind of did that. So I could look into it if I do buy the game and look into see what the side stuff has an offer.
Right.
Has in store for me.
Has in store, but just kind of rounding it out, the gameplay is obviously the biggest part of it. The presentation of like the story and things like that are pretty good. The dialogue is pretty good. It's all pretty high quality. The only issue I had with the presentation was odd head positioning. So I have my FOV cranked up a little bit, as you usually do in first-person games. And what I noticed is like in the first game, your character made eye contact with everybody. So like you felt like you're looking through this person's eyes. And I'm looking at Chris. However, in this game, I feel like it's more or less like you're looking at their titties. It's like if I was talking to the camera, but looking, 10 inches below it, essentially. It's kind of where I feel like the head position is what?
Way to kill zombies?
Yeah. Yes.
We'll kill some zombies right now.
Fuck out of here, guy. But that's basically what it's like, is like every character, right? Like if I look at you, your head is not the top of my vision. I can still see the ceiling.
Yeah.
In the game, when you're talking to a character, their head, the top of their head is the top of the frame.
Have you ever considered that your character's like 4'6"?
Actually, no. They're supposed to be like fairly tall.
Like how tall?
Like 5'9".
Have you considered that like everyone else is like
even taller?
7'3" or something?
Pretty much.
He's like this.
But what's funny too is because of the cinematics are set up in cinematic fashion, it'll change your FOV to like the cinematics FOV.
Yeah.
So your character will be looking where their head is the top of the frame, and then it's like, oh, you're back to gameplay, and your FOV will zoom out, and you're like, okay, there we go. That's more like how it would fucking look. So I think it's just a limit of the way they basically did motion capture for the game.
Yeah.
And camera angles. But it's just the only odd thing I noticed. Other than that, dude, the game's fucking great. The reviews from like outlets were lies. Like they're just not. They're hoping that if they put Cyberpunk or relate this game to Cyberpunk, it'll get people to be like, "Oh, here we go again." It's nothing like that. Did it deliver on everything it promised? No.
It's interesting. I wonder what was it, Techland?
Techland, yeah.
I wonder what they did to like IGN for them to hate this game so much. The CEO of Techland must have like fucked the CEO of IGN's wife.
Literally, one of the best reviews I saw was someone in their review said, "As gamers, we need to differentiate between bad and disappointing."
Yeah.
Because he was saying this game is by no means bad. However, with what was promised, it's disappointing. As in the whole choose your own destiny adventure thing isn't quite what they made it out to be. What fucking game is? What game is?
You know how it is.
So, okay, that's cool. So that's how I would go into it is the game itself, you're not going to have a bad time if you play it.
This is why I never really read into games a ton.
Yeah, I never do.
I'll look at some Steam reviews and stuff because I know it's like, oh, these are people who have actually played the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll look into that, but that's kind of the size of it, honestly. There's because if you do that, again, you get like expectations set for you, like, oh, this is gonna be like this, and this, and then it's not like that, and then you're like, oh, fuck, I don't like this game. This game sucks.
Yeah. I don't read reviews at all before a game release unless it's a game that I'm not 100% pumped for. The only thing I will do is like click on the Steam page and just see what the rating says. If it says positive, mixed, or whatever. So like I did that with Hitman VR because Hitman VR came out suddenly one day on PC and I was like, yes, this is going to be sick. So I clicked on it and it was mostly negative. So then I was like, okay, now I know. So I went down and people were like, it's broken. They didn't even finish it. It literally it doesn't run like on anyone's computer.
Oh,
like,
shit, they didn't even add the game.
I'm like, all right, cool. Now I know. But like for Dying Light, I played it for 6 hours and then I just clicked on the store page and was like, oh, it says mostly positive. Cool. That's all I care about. I just wanted to see what people said. But I didn't read any reviews. The only ones I saw were like headlines. And most of the headlines I kept seeing were like, is Dying Light 2 the new Cyberpunk? Is this the new standard for AAA games? I'm like, just shut the fuck up. Like,
who gives a shit?
Shut your goddamn mouth.
That's my bottom line. You have fun. You're having fun playing a video game. Good.
I win.
It's good enough.
But yeah, the game runs good too on my PC. Pretty good. I'd say it's like it's a pretty resource intensive game.
I had I just had my leg cramp up.
Oh.
I had to do kind of one of these. It's
resource intensive, but beyond that, it runs pretty good, you know. And they're fixing it day by day, so. But,
nice.
Yeah, that's all I got. That was a very long, drawn out conversation, but I'm done. You done?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Cool. As always, if you like the show, drop a like, drop a follow, drop a subscribe, leave a comment, drop a dookie. Drop a dookie in my lap.
Sorry, intrusive thoughts won again.
And as always, you can find us natively on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Breaker, Radio Public, Spotify, and of course my app of choice, Pocket Cast. Reach out to us either in the YouTube comments section or via email at synapsemisfire@pm.me. Comments, questions, concerns, and death threats. There's also the social medias, Instagram and TikTok. We actually post there now, so that's kind of cool. A little bit of coolness, and yeah, do the stuff.
Pocket Casts. Give us money.
We'll do one of those TikToks. It's like day 6 of doing this. It'll be day 6 of asking Pocket Casts for money.
Pocket Casts. Give us money. Money me. Money now. Money me needing a lot now.